Welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a piece of source material that operates on an epic and honestly terrifying scale. We're looking at a deeply ancient mythological account of absolute, inescapable destruction, the burning of the Khandava forest. You know, this isn't just a story about a bad wildfire. No, it's a highly structured apocalyptic event orchestrated by divine figures. Pay close attention to the incredible, visceral details the text uses to convey the sheer magnitude of this catastrophe. So, what exactly happens when gods decree that an entire ecosystem must be erased? We're skipping the usual agenda today and dropping right into the action. The text we're analyzing doesn't hold back at all. It paints a picture of total annihilation. No shelter, no escape, and zero mercy. Well, almost zero mercy. We're going to break down the anatomy of this inferno piece by piece to understand exactly how this source material constructs a truly divine catastrophe. Section 1. The Khandava Inferno, Phase 1. Now, to really grasp the chaos, we have to look at who is actually trapped in this blaze. What's wild here is the sheer diversity of the populations caught in the crossfire. The text specifically enumerates the victims. You've got mythological beings, right? The Danavas, the Rakshasas, and the serpent-like Nagas. But they are trapped right alongside everyday wildlife. Look at this grouping. Wolves, bears, tigers, lions, massive elephants with rented temples, and flocks of birds. It's an entire ecosystem completely leveled, where the supernatural and the natural share the exact same horrific fate, as stones rain down from the sky and the forest literally burns from all sides. The source goes out of its way to describe the absolute sensory overload of these victims. I mean, the sound of the roaring fire and the clashing weapons is so terrible that the creatures literally lose their power of movement. They are completely paralyzed by fear, and in that total paralysis, they let out this collective, frightful roar. The text actually compares this noise to the rumbling of portentous clouds. Just imagine a massive, booming, atmospheric sound of sheer hopelessness. They can't run, they can only scream. Section 2. The Divine Strike. Krishna and Arjuna. Because the fire is really just the environment, right? The true engines of this destruction are divine. The mechanics here are downright terrifying. Take Krishna's discus, for example. The text describes it as a fierce weapon, resplendent with its own energy. But look at the gruesome, highly specific details the source provides. It cuts enemies into hundreds of pieces, becomes heavily besmeared with blood and animal fat, and then acts like this deadly, unstoppable boomerang that just keeps returning to its master's hand after slaughtering numberless creatures. It moves, as the text explicitly notes, like death itself. And on the other flank, we have Arjuna's bow. The source material really emphasizes the absolute inescapability of Arjuna's barrage, noting that his weapons were never futile. He's described as flawlessly piercing 100 creatures with a single shaft, or on the flip side, striking a single creature with 100 shafts. So whether he's taking out a massive crowd or absolutely obliterating a single target, his precision makes sure that literally no creature can slip out of the burning forest. Section 3. Gods must retreat. Celestial retreat. So you might be wondering, doesn't anyone try to stop this? Well, they do. We zoom out to a cosmic scale here, where the celestial army, led by the god Indra, attempts to intervene and put out the fire. But Indra's rescue mission completely fails. Why? Because of a massive turning point. The climax of this conflict arrives not with a weapon, but with a deep, loud, incorporeal voice booming from the sky. The voice basically informs Indra that Krishna and Arjuna are invincible. They are the ancient gods Nara and Narayana. But the absolute key phrase is that final sentence. The destruction of Khandava hath been ordained by fate. Hearing this ultimate, unarguable authority, Indra just abandons his wrath and retreats to heaven, taking the whole celestial army with him. The crucial takeaway here is the chilling emotional contrast presented in the text. On one side, you have the reactions of the forest creatures, roaring in pain, finding absolutely no ease whether they run to riverbanks or crematoriums, just getting struck down by death. But on the exact opposite side, we have the fire god Agni and the heroes Krishna and Arjuna. The moment Indra retreats, they set up what's called a leonine roar, become exceedingly glad, and derive much happiness from the slaughter. The text is totally unambiguous about their joy amidst all this carnage. Section 4. Agni's Feast, 15 Days of Fire. This leads us to the ultimate beneficiary of this entire event. The fire isn't just an element here, it's a living entity, consuming a massive meal. The physical manifestation of the fire god Agni is described with incredibly vivid, terrifying imagery. He appears with blazing coppery eyes, a flaming tongue, and fiery hair on the crown of his head. And the source uses a very specific kind of grotesque metaphor. Agni is described as drinking the nectar-like stream of animal fat. The text even notes he was so gratified by the massive quantities of flesh, blood, and fat that his flames rose to a great height without a single curling wreath of smoke. It's a perfect clean burn fueled by total devastation. So how long did this all go on? Exactly 15 days. Protected by Krishna and Arjuna, Agni burned that forest continuously without mercy for 5 and 10 days. Section 5. Survivor Maya. A rare mercy. Yet right in the middle of this absolute apocalypse, the text zooms in on a very rare, totally anomalous moment. Let's break down this rapid, cinematic sequence. First, Agni fiercely pursues an Asura named Maya, who is desperately trying to escape. Second, Krishna sees this and instantly raises his blood-soaked discus to smite Maya down. Third, Maya, in total terror, screams out specifically to Arjuna for protection, yelling, "Run to me, O Arjuna, and protect me." And finally, step 4, Arjuna suddenly declares, "Fear not." That single phrase, as the text says, seemed to give Maya his life. Suddenly, the divine decree of absolute death just stops. Krishna lowers his weapon, and Agni flat out refuses to burn him. This kind of mercy is incredibly rare. 6. That is the final body count of the living. Let that sink in. After 15 days of relentless, divinely ordained fire and the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of creatures, only 6 beings survived the entire Khandava forest. The source explicitly lists exactly who made it out alive, capping off the massive list of casualties we saw at the beginning with this tiny, hyper-specific group. Spared by Agni were Aswasena, Maya the Asura, who we literally just saw beg for his life, and 4 birds called Sarngakas. That is it. Out of an entire vibrant ecosystem of mythic beasts and wild animals, just these 6 individuals survived the apocalypse. Which brings us to a final, provocative thought to leave you with today. As we saw, the incorporeal voice declared that the destruction of the forest was ordained by fate, an unstoppable cosmic decree. Yet, when Maya screamed for his life, Arjuna's simple, "Fear not," instantly overrode that apocalypse for one individual. It really begs the question, in the framework of this ancient text, if absolute divine destruction is ordained by fate, what does it mean that a simple, desperate plea for mercy can still bend the will of the gods? It's a fascinating tension between cosmic destiny and individual compassion that makes this source material so compelling. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the explainer, and as always, keep asking the big questions.